I am so excited to be here at this movement of the 414 window. For me, it's just like a dream come true because I've been praying for 16 years that God would put a believer in the life of every orphan in the world. I happen to know a fair amount about the global orphan crisis because the Lord has made my ministry, my personal life, and my professional life all intersect at what I call the global orphan crossroads. Most people don't realize that there are 153 million orphans in the world. Orphans defined by UNICEF as children who have lost one or both parents. And even children who have only lost one parent are highly vulnerable because in many cultures, and particularly low and middle income countries, for example, if the mother is dead and the father is working, there's no one to help take care of the child in the daytime. And even vice versa, often it's very hard for single parent families to really make it in many parts of the world. My personal story is that my husband and I have 10 kids, 8 adopted from Russian orphanages in the ages 4 to 14. So we have our own little personal 414 window in our family, and we've seen God help them blossom into believers who now, we adopted them many years ago, now they're ages 19 to 28, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22, no, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. And they all know the Lord, they have good relationships with us, and what's really striking to me is that I have 3 married daughters who now have daughters themselves. So I have 3 granddaughters, ages 1, 1, and 3. And I have really seen the cycle of abuse, neglect, violence, and exploitation broken because our 2 adopted daughters who are married and have children are every bit as strong parents as our 1 biologic daughter who always grow up in a stable and loving and nurturing environment. So that's why, that's kind of my family story. That's a little bit about the professional side. Well, I haven't really told much about the professional side. Let me go ahead and say a little bit about that. So my job is I've worked for many years as a senior scientist at the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. It's like the American Ministry of Health, probably is what most other countries would call it if people aren't familiar with it. And a lot of my research has been in the area of prevention of violence against children globally. That's really been my main focus. Most people don't realize that of the 2 billion children in the world, 1 billion have been seriously, either physically or sexually or emotionally abused. So we are talking here really about the orphan challenge, thinking of orphan status as being an orphan challenge, 1 or both parents dead. But I think in God's eyes, the orphan spirit is every bit as big a challenge as the orphan status challenge. So I'm hoping, I'll be sharing a little bit tomorrow, and I'm hoping to stretch people's thinking a little bit and their vision for how God can use the church to come in and do at the level of every orphan in the world what we have seen him do for the children that have become our own in our family. So I think it's fascinating that the topic and the theme of this conference is rooted and released because one of our 22-year-old sons, who was adopted and very broken when we adopted him, and when he was 7 and we adopted him, he would hug me like this. I mean, he couldn't even relax and hug me. It was always this broken kind of, stiff hug, and he has so become a godly young man and someone who I think is fully rooted and released. But he did not know the theme of this conference, and he had been praying about it before I left, and he said, "Mom, I know you're speaking there, and there's something I think you need to ask all those people that you're speaking to." I said, "Well, okay, what is it, bud?" And he goes, "I think God wants to ask them, how deep are your roots? Because those adults over there can only take kids as deep as they themselves have gone in the Lord. So do you think you could ask them, how deep are your roots?" And so I said, "Oh yeah, I think, and by the way, that's the theme, Matt, I told you that." And he said, "No, you hadn't told me that at all." But yeah, I think it's a reflection of someone who's clearly hearing from God that that's what he would say. And then I'll tell one last story that I think just reflects his being both rooted and released. He was jogging recently. He loves to run. He had run about 2 miles, and he said he asked the Lord, he told the Lord, I'm not going to stop running until you speak to me. And so he thought he might have to go like 5 or 10 miles, which was pretty comfortable for him. It would kill me. But he got 10 miles, nothing. He thought, I'm going to keep going. 25 miles into his run, God finally speaks to him. And this is what God said to him. Alex, I want you to treat people the way you see they have the potential to become. And then he said, Mom, I think what that means is I'm supposed to be seeing God's destiny in those people that I'm spending time with, which is really what you and Daddy have always done with us and everybody else in our family. You haven't really treated us like we are or like we behave. You've treated us like we have the potential to become. So I guess if I had to leave a word for anybody listening to this, I would encourage you to treat everyone around you, in your family, outside of your family, in your church, and particularly if God leads you to care about orphans, either the ones that are orphans by status or orphans spiritually, to ask God when He looks at them, what does He see? Call forth the treasure in them, speak to them of that, and treat them like God sees they can be.